Hi there, it's Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand. And with Halloween coming up, I created a lovely little Halloween card. It's called a Peekaboo card, and I taught this at my parent and child class recently. And so it uses the Harvest Hello stamp set along with the Apple Builder Punch. And so when you pull the little tab here, you get a little surprise. Peekaboo! There's a owl hiding behind the jack-o'-lantern. So I'm going to show you how to do this, and it uses quite a few different stamp sets, and then there's inside with another little owl with the little spider. So I have a hoot on Halloween. So I'll show you how to do this. I'm going to change it up slightly. My mechanism on here doesn't work that well for closing. It's fine for opening, but trying to close it doesn't close very well. So I taught a different way to do it at my class, and I've come up with another idea I'm going to try today. Instead of using cardstock, which gets a bit flimsy after a while pulling it, I'm going to use a piece of window sheet. So we'll see how that goes. But with this card, you're going to learn lots of different techniques. So we've got masking with the pumpkins in the front for the pumpkin patch. We've also got a bit of masking to give us our full moon there. And then a bit of tearing across the paper at the bottom to give us the effect of grass. And also coloring. So I'm going to color the images on the inside with my Stampin' Blends, and I'll also be showing you how to do some sponging to get the effect of the pumpkins, the orange pumpkins, as well as sponging for the full moon. So let's get started. I'll tell you the different items I'm using for this, and this would be great for other times of the year. Anything that you want to have hidden under, like a hidden sentiment or picture, you can do the same technique I'm showing you here. So it's not just for Halloween. And the main set I used was the Harvest Hellos. So you can do pumpkins, apples, pears, anything, maybe even a tomato, whatever you want. This set is really good for all of those different fruits. And there's the Apple Builder Punch, which does the main piece of fruit and a leaf and a stem. So we'll be showing you how to do that. The other ones I used here were a couple of the owls from the Have a Hoot set. So I've got the little scared owl behind the jack-o'-lantern, and on the inside I'm stamping the owl on the tree with the spider coming down. But you could choose any of these for Halloween. You've also got lovely ones for Christmas, and if you covered that up and only stamped the bottom part of this image here, it could be for a wedding or engagement or love. Very cute. And these guys here, if you ignore the snow, that could be sparkly, and that could be maybe for a new baby coming into the family. So all the siblings looking at the new one. So this set can be used for lots of different things. And then this set is the Celebration Tidings. And this one matches with dies to do some of the treat boxes. But I really like the font here for the Happy Haunting. So that's what I put on the front of my card there. And the inside of the card, I went with the Have a Hoot on Halloween because obviously there's owls. Okay, so let's get started. Now, since people from different countries will be watching the video, I'm going to give you a general idea of the sizes to use so you can size things up to fit whatever country you're watching this from, depending on the size of the card. So here in New Zealand, we have A6 cards, which is half of an A5 piece of paper, which is actually half of our regular size paper, which is A4. But it's pretty easy to figure out the sizing for this. So I'm starting with the backing of the card is our lovely Midnight Madness. Oh, sorry. Misty Moonlight. Don't know why I said that one. Okay, Misty Moonlight. One of our new colors. I'm making up colors. So Misty Moonlight is your card base. So score it into whatever size card you have for the country you're in. Then a piece of Whisper White cardstock size down just to fit on the inside and giving you a nice little edge there. Then for the other elements, just a piece of garden green or any other green that you wish to use, the same width as the front of your card. And then the height is approximately, this looks like it's about 3 centimeters or maybe an inch or an inch and a half. The height doesn't really matter because you're going to rip it. So you could have just any scrap you have as long as it's the right width. And see that scrap there I'd scored on, but I'm going to emboss on it so you won't notice it. Then you need another white piece, again the same width of your card, about half the height or a third of the height. Again, you will cut it down to fit, and the green will be covering the bottom, so if it's a bit shorter you won't notice it because you can slide it down and cover it. So just a scrap piece as long as it's the width of the card that you're doing. And then you need another piece of scrap card to create the 2 pumpkins that are going to be glued together. So something big enough to punch the pumpkin on, and I've done it big enough to get the leaves and the stem out of the piece as well. So I'm going to be putting 2 pumpkins on that piece of card. And then you need just one other little scrap of white card. Again, size doesn't really matter because this one I'm going to be punching the owl and the pumpkin, so as long as it's big enough to punch that, because I will die cut it out. So whatever whisper white you have to fit the little pumpkin, or if you're making something different, whatever size you need to make the image for the inside. And then the mechanism on the cards I just had a piece of white cardstock that was about the width of the card, maybe a bit longer. And I found it turned out to be rather flimsy. So what I'm going with this time is I've got a scrap of window sheet, and it doesn't have to be this long, but I'm going to start with that length and then trim it down, and you'll see what I'm going to do with that. So if you don't have window sheet or something thick like that, just use a piece of thick whisper white, because that's what I did with this card and in my class, and it does work. But if you tug it a lot, eventually the cardstock gets flimsy and it no longer works. So that's why we're going to try it slightly different. Okay, so I'll set the card aside for now. And let's do some of our stamping that I'm going to color in later. So on the inside of the card, I am stamping my owl with the spider. I'm going to stamp mine in Memento Tuxedo Black because I'm going to color them with my Stampin' Blends. So if you're using Stampin' Blends, you definitely want to color them with the black. And just bear with me for a minute. And you'll also need a blade to cut, you'll see later, to cut the little slit to make the mechanism work. So I'm going to do my owl just to make the inside make sense with the have a hoot. So I always turn it over, not stick my finger in it. I always turn it over just to check it's sufficiently inked. I'm just going to pop that down in the bottom edge of my card. Nice firm pressure and up, probably a bit too firm there. And then the words have a hoot on Halloween. Had a class with this set and I'm finding little bits of debris on everything. So have a hoot on Halloween, roughly in the center. Hard to do it centered on video. So that's the inside of my card, and while I have the black out, I will go ahead and do my little owl. Again, doesn't matter what size of whisper white because you're going to cut it out with the dies. If you don't have the dies, you can just fussy cut it, but I love using the dies. It makes it quick and easy. So there you go. That's going to be hiding under my jack-o'-lantern. So I will color those with my Stampin' Blends, and you'll see what those look like later. But I will then stamp my 2 jack-o'-lanterns here. Now you can just stamp them by hand, but in order for them to, for you not to waste too much paper when you're punching them out, it's best to use a piece of cardstock that will fit the entire width of what your punch will handle, so either that way or this direction. And what I find easiest, when I get my punches, I make a template. So I use a scrap piece and I slide it in and I punch it out, and then I can use that as a template, and then I can actually set my stamps into the open grooves onto one block, and then they're all lined up. However, for this, I want this section to be black and I want those to be stamped in green. So that's where the Stamparatus comes in handy. And I've already got mine set up. Let me just move it over. Hopefully you can see that. And when you stamp with the Stamparatus, it's best to have something sitting underneath it when you're inking it up to get the pressure on it. So hopefully you can see that. So I've already got a piece of cardstock. Again, it just needs to be big enough to fit into the punch. Now I've pre-stamped to adjust where I need to put everything, and in doing so I use this as my template. So I set the template there, put the stamp into the part I want, and then move the plate over to hold it in place. So I'm actually going to want 2 of these, and this cardstock's slightly smaller than what I used last night, so hopefully that will be the right size. And just magnet to hold it in place there. So the apple, I want it to be in black, just to give me the outline. Actually, it's a pumpkin. Would be an apple if I did it red, but I'm going to do orange, so it's going to be a pumpkin. So, yeah, maybe slightly down. Okay, and I just rub around the stamped image to get the pressure on. There we go. And then I want to put a face in there. Now I've already set it up with my jack-o'-lantern face there, because as I said, I did this with the class, and it was much quicker to get everybody to use the Stamparatus than to stamp individually and wait and pass this everything, because it wouldn't line up properly for punching. So there's my little jack-o'-lantern face. And then I am going to, if you don't like how it came out, if it's not dark enough, like that doesn't look very dark to me, the nice thing with the Stamparatus is you can go back, ink it up some more, and do it again. And that will put it right back in the same spot. And see, that's nice and dark. And see, I actually think the outline is a bit light as well. And I am going to use this outline again for the next one, so I'm just going to ink that up a bit. And just pop it back over. As long as you haven't moved your paper, it's going to go right in the same spot. So Stamparatus is great for making sure that you get enough coverage with ink. If you have trouble holding the blocks, you know, young children, people with arthritis, etc., Stamparatus is the way to go. So now I've got my my stem and my leaf already set up at the top, lined up perfectly, so it'll come out on the punch. And I'm just going to put a bit of garden green. So sometimes I put my inks onto the Stampin' Spots with either some of the drops, or if I rub this on the top of the ink I already have. It's really good for using on the Stamparatus, because when you're stamping up a small image like these, you don't end up with ink going everywhere. And so I'll just simply put that over there, and that's going to put it right in the right spot for punching out. There you go. So now I'm just going to turn this around and do the same thing, but this time I'm going to be slightly different. So again, we're going to ink up our outline. this time we're going to put some words on the inside. Now there are words that come with the owl set that say boo, and they're that big. And I could just put that there, but it's rather small. So I am going to use words from a paper pumpkin set I got a year ago at Halloween. So if you have any other words you want to put in there, you can hand stamp them. That's easy enough. But I've already got them set up on the Stamparatus. But let me get my stem and leaf done first before I forget. That's in green. And then when you change the plate, you just go straight up, turn it around, and then you can use the other side. So essentially with the Stamparatus you have 4 stamping surfaces. So now I've got the word boo. However, this word here is done in the Photopolymer ink. So it doesn't have the sponge behind it like the other stamps. So you can put your sponge plate underneath your image with the Stamparatus, which is recommended. But because I don't want to risk moving my image, I'm just going to give it a little extra pressure. Now I can see I missed a bit off the top of the B, so I'm just going to ink the top of the B up. And then come back around and put a lot more pressure right where the B is to see if I can get it inked up. Sorry about the wobbling on the video. There we go. Ooh, that's nice and dark. So dark, I think I want to do the side a bit darker. That's the nice thing with the Stamparatus. You can go back and add more ink to things. It's also great if you want to have different colors on one stamped image, because you could stamp one color, wipe it off the image, and stamp another color, and you can get kind of a blending kaleidoscope of colors. There we go. So now that that's all done, we'll just pop this away. You do not want to store this trying to bend both pieces. They will not fit that way. So you just set them on top of each other. So now that I have that, I can simply put it into the punch, and because I had them aligned, you can see, hopefully you can see that, they line up perfectly because the way I had them previously set up on the Stamparatus. So I can just punch that out, and then I can turn the other one around and punch that one out. Okay. So I don't want to lose my little bits. I will color in the leaves later on, give them a bit of color. But for now, I want to show you the next step. So we're going to be doing some sponging. But before we do that, before we get into sponging our pumpkin parts, we're going to do some more pumpkins. So if you haven't done any masking before, I will just quickly show you how to mask, and then I will show you how I made the front with the pumpkin patch. So this time we're going to use the pumpkin with the lines, and again we're going to use the same color, Memento Black. And so when you start out your image, if you want to layer images and give it the effect that some are further behind others, that's where you do masking. Okay, so you start basically with the image that you want to be closest to you, the one in the front. So I want that to be roughly central. So I'm just going to pop that one down center. Give it good pressure and up. Okay, now you create a mask. Now I've already got some masks made because I've already done this card a few times, but just to show you how to make a mask, just a pad of sticky paper. So it's got the sticky on the top, and I used to be an Avon rep, so that's why I have these pads. And then you want to stamp your images where part of the image is on the sticky portion of your paper. because that will help to hold it in place. And it doesn't have to be a perfect image, just so you can get the outline of it. So once you have that, peel it off and you trim it. So we're just going to trim around as close to the black as you can. We're just going to trim around that image to create a mask. Now, I may have done other videos in the past where I showed masking, and there's lots of ones online that you can see. This one is a fairly simple mask because it's a nice little easy to cut image. But you can get really intricate ones, and it's really fascinating, the cards you can make using masks, because a lot of times people just can't figure out how you got things to appear where you did. So now I will put the mask over the image that I just done, and now I can stamp next to it. So now we're going to put a pumpkin on the pumpkin patch over here, and we're going to put a pumpkin over here. And so I'm not stamping on my first image, I'm stamping on the mask. And now I've already got some other masks made, so if you're going to carry on doing things, you'll need more masks. So I've already got some previously made and used masks. And I'm now going to cover up those parts. And I'm going to carry on with my pumpkin patch. So I'm just going to stick one maybe there. And just put good pressure where you're stamping over the part that has the post-it note on it, because that part doesn't always cover easily. And so again, I don't want to stamp all the way to the top because I will be trimming the top down. And so we'll put one over here. And so it just looks like there's a pile of pumpkins in the background. And then just mask that one there. And then so I'm only getting one side of it, so I'm only going to ink one half of that. I'm only inking this part of my image because I know that's the only part that's going to show on here. So I'll pop another one there. And then while it's still masked, I'll ink up the other side to get the other side of my pumpkin. And now the magic will happen. Not really, just looks like it. So you pull your mask off, and I've got a whole bunch of pumpkins that look like they're in front of each other and behind each other. Okay, now the next step for these guys is to put some color on them. So the best way to do color, you could use pens and color them if you like, but the quickest way I found was with sponges. So I'm just going to sponge over them. And when I use my sponges, we sell the big sponge circles and cut them into about 6 pieces, basically. And then I usually put a piece of cardstock matching the color that I use, or just a white piece and then write the name on it. That way, when I use it, I know which color, because quite often the color that shows on the sponge doesn't quite look true to the actual color you're sponging with. Now these were used yesterday and they probably have a bit of ink on them still. But the other tip for sponging, don't push it really hard. You don't need to get so much ink that it comes through to your fingers. Just give it a tap and start off your cardstock and just kind of circle onto it. That's the best way to do it. Now the bottom of this you're not going to see, so we don't need to color that in, and you're going to cut the top off, so you don't need to color a lot of that. So when you're coming in, if you come from the bottom, that way if you got a lot of ink, it's not going to give you a big smudge right in the middle of your pumpkin. So I'm just dabbing a bit, I have it off the screen, I'm dabbing a bit of pumpkin pie ink and then just coming in from the side. And see how there's that big blob there, but it'll be hidden under the grass. And you can make it as dark as you want or as light as you want. Again, pressure is where you get more color, because it might seem like there's not much ink left, but you give it a bit more pressure, you might find more ink left on there. So So coming from the side, and you can get different effects with the sponging, like if I'm going up and down a bit, can give it the image, the impression of the curves. So sponge it however you like, and I always just tap a little bit off before I go on to the cardstock, just in case. Okay, so that's kind of light. My original card was actually quite dark compared to that. I might add a bit more color. And that's why you really need to have scrap paper underneath to make sure that you don't get it all over your work surface or your table. So I'm coming up from the bottom and down from the top because I know those areas aren't going to be seen. So I don't care how it looks down there or on the top. I just want it to look a certain way on the pumpkins themselves. There we go. I think that's looking pretty pumpkin-like. Just give it a few little extra bits. Okay, and then the same with the two that you've already cut out. Come off the side and give it a bit of a swirl. That's how I like to do it. I just come off the side with a bit of a swirl. Other people might have different ways of doing this. You could use your dauber if you want. I find the sponge gives me the effect I like better, because sometimes with the dauber I end up with a big daub circle in the middle of my image. So I'm actually tapping a bit off to make sure I'm not getting too strong of a color variation on it. And if you're trying to get gradients, you could even mix a few colors in when you're sponging. So you could, maybe have a couple different shades of oranges if you want. But I'm just trying to get it to look like Halloween pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns. And just as much as you want. Now remember, less is better because you can always add more to it. So you don't want to go too over the top to start with. So just a little gentle coloration, and then you can add to it later on. Sorry, I'm wobbling the camera, aren't I? So that one I put on a bit heavy hand at that side, so now I'm just going to try to even it up. And nearly done here. The other nice thing with the sponges, if you haven't attached the card to it, you can rinse them. You can wash them out, and they might be stained, but the color will come out. So you can use have only just a few sponges and use them for all your projects. But if you put the cardstock on there, don't do that because the card will get ruined. Okay, so I'm kind of happy with those colors there. Okay, so that's pretty good. Bit of ink on my fingers. Alright. So those are my pumpkins done. Now, got a bit more sponging I'm going to do here. Try and make sure I don't have orange on my fingers at the moment. Now the other sponging is to get the moon to show up. So same thing, using a post-it note. This time I punched right in the center of the post-it note. I punched it with a 1.5 inch circle, but you can cut your moon any size you want. You could use dies if you don't have the punches, and then just figure out where on your picture you want your moon to be, keeping in mind that you need room for your words. So I think this time I might put my moon up there. Now, because I've got sticky on the post-it note, it's going to hold it in place. I might turn it this way to hold it better. So I've got sticky on one side of the post-it note, and I'm just going to hold it down, maybe down here. And this time I am going to use a sponge dauber, and I'm going to do it with the Whisper White. Now Whisper White craft ink doesn't dry as quick as the other ink, so be aware of that so you don't smudge everywhere. And I always just check to make sure whether it's been dried up or if there's still a bit of ink on there. So once you have your circle, make sure you got the sticky on the card and just holding the other part in place. You could use washi tape to hold it in place if you want. And the same concept, come in from the outside and just like go around the circle. Now because this is going to be a full moon and it doesn't necessarily have to be solidly white, my other one I did nice and solid. This one I think I'm going to go for maybe a different effect and give it some not so solid parts. And just coming in from the sides, you don't want to ruin your circle by pulling out. And the moon actually has some interesting textures to it, so it doesn't matter that we get some swipes going different ways on there. So that one I went with a really dark moon, and this one I'm going with a bit of a lighter moon. But see how that just shows up nicely onto the card? Now to get the misty background, I simply just gently swiped a bit with the white that was still on. So let's see if I've got any white still on here. A little bit. I'll bring it up and show you in a second. It's not as noticeable. You can see a bit of this misty. Oops, yeah, a bit more showing up. So just giving you a bit of a cloud look there. Just not re-inking it, just going with whatever happened to be on there and swiping it across. So that looks a bit, gives you different effects. So if you can see there, I've got kind of a really white full moon, and that one's a bit of a different full moon. Okay. So that's another masking and sponging technique. I'll put that away before. And keep in mind that white takes a while to dry, so you don't want to touch that for a little while. So while that's drying, I'll come back here, and for our pumpkin patch, we cut close to the black top of our cardstock. Now I could have stamped this straight onto pumpkin pie cardstock, but I thought that would just be a little too dark. So I thought I'd go with the white and then do the sponging, because then it can match the other. But if you want to give it a try, just do it straight onto pumpkin pie cardstock. That would be one way to do it. If you don't have the inks or don't want to do the sponging, then you would already have your orange pumpkins. There we go. So that's the top done. Now that's going to be my inside bit. Now I want to make some more stems. So I've got these stems here, and I'm just going to, and my leaves, but I want some more stems. So now that I've finished with the Stamparatus, I've taken the stem off of the Stamparatus, so there it is. And I'm just going to use a bit of scrap paper, and with my garden green, I'm going to make some more stems to put on my other pumpkins. So with that one, I'm just going to, where's my punch? Come in that way. Okay, so I'm just going to put a few stems in there. Just space them out on a bit of scrap with garden green. And then I could fussy cut them, but I'm going to punch them out to make it quick and easy. So there's my punch. And with my scrap, I'll just slide it in. So I'm just going to slide it into that section and punch them out. So, and then I can just slide the next one in and punch it out. So if you only want part of a punch that's in a punch builder type, just figure out the width of the section you want and cut a piece of cardstock to fit that, and then you can just slide it through with very little wastage. So there's my stems. I'm going to add a bit of green color to them. I might either sponge it or I might do Stampin' Blends. I haven't decided yet, but that's it. So got all those done. Lots of stems there, probably enough, I hope. All right, now for our grass. So the grass, I'm going to emboss it with this subtle embossing, and I'm going to show you the next step. I'll be right back. So I put the green in the subtle embossing folder, and I made sure the lines were going the direction I want. And so before, this had a few score lines in it because it was a scrap piece I had, and because of I didn't worry about that because once I embossed it, you don't see the score lines anymore. So that's the subtle 3D embossing folder. And now that I've got that, which has to be the width, I'm just going to tear, depending on how high I want my grass to be. I'm just going to tear a bit, and I'm going to tear it at different ways, so some taller, some shorter. Just kind of unevenly tear it, and having your fingers close together makes it so you have more control over that. So that will be my grass there. And what I think I'll do is I think I'll do 2 layers. So I think I will put the other piece I tore down at the bottom and give me a couple different heights of grass. So something different for this card. So you just want it high enough that it's going to cover the bottom of your pumpkins. All right. So now I am going to show you the mechanism and how it works before we put all the other embellishments on. So this is where you're going to need a blade to cut with. You could probably use the tip of your snips to cut, but I'm just got some scrap paper, and I've just got a old mouse pad, since we don't need to use mouse pads anymore because it's got the plastic on the one side and the sponge on the other. So when I cut through, I'm not going to damage anything. But now you need to determine roughly where you want things to fit. Now I kind of like how high that is there, and then with my grass there, that actually turns out to be quite good height. If you didn't like the height, you could just cut a bit off, you know, lower it down, etc. Before I do that, I think I'll stamp the words, and that'll give me a better idea of exactly where I want it to go. So I'm stamping the words Happy Haunting in the same color as the background, which is Misty Moonlight, not that other name I made up. And so because I am stamping it with a Photopolymer, I can use this mouse pad underneath to give me a bit of a foam pressure, and it'll stamp nicer as well. So in this case, I think I'm going to put this one, kind of half thinking to put it over this moon, but maybe not. Maybe it'll stick with how I had it before. So Happy Haunting. There you go. It comes out really nicely if you've got a foam base underneath it. And so even though that's the same color as the background, it's nice and dark. So I need to figure out where I want my pumpkin to be opening. I want him to open pretty much in the center. So once you figure out where you want him to open, just take a little pencil line just to mark the edge of your pumpkin. And then cutting on a surface that won't matter, you want to slice wide enough for your mechanism that you're going to put in. So if you're using a piece of Whisper White cardstock or your window sheet, that needs to be the width of the piece that you're going to slide through. So now that I know where I want it to go, I'm going to use this just to basically pencil in the width of how wide I want to cut. You don't want it too wide because you don't want it wobbling around, but you don't want it too short either. So now let's see, I put the pencil mark there for the width. So then just using a blade, cut it. Just within that width. Okay, and that's why the back of a mouse pad is great, because it's spongy enough. And then just test it to see if it does fit. If it doesn't fit, you might need to cut it a bit wider. Yeah, I need a bit more. Could, as I said, you could use the edge of your snips if you want to cut it, but want it to be as straight a line as possible. And slide that in. I'm being a bit narrow there. There, that should do it. Okay, slide it through the slit. There you go. Now if you see any white coming through from where you cut, you can always just sponge that over a bit. So on one side, you need it big enough to grab, so that's going to be my pulling side. And I'm using stickers. I'm going to use stickers. I used ravens on the other one, and these ones are crossbones. These are leftover ones from Halloween last year. I think they might still be available in the clearance rack. I also have some gravestones, so I might use gravestones, I'm not sure. So just decide how long you want this side to be, and you can always snip it smaller. And the other side, you need to bend it. Now the mistake I made on my original one is I bent it right where the edge was, and when I tried to push it to make it flop back, there was no pressure there. So my oldest daughter gave me the tip that it should be bent a bit further back. So I'm just, if you can see that, I'm just bending it a bit further back. So the bent part is now looking to be further back. Now that will actually be underneath. That bent section will actually be underneath, but I had it on the front just so I could determine where it was going to go. I can see some of the paper ripped there. So you want the bent part to be there. And so this only needs to be big enough for the pumpkin, so I can snip off, because I had way too long. I can snip off my extra plastic and use that for another project. Okay, so now you want your pumpkin to stick there, but you still want some of the bent section behind. You don't want the full thing. You don't want it all the way up. So that's what you don't want. You do want a little bit sticking out from the back. And that's going to make the mechanism work, hopefully. It worked with paper, so with that still sticking out the back, you want to just adhere your pumpkin to the center. Now, using the plastic, glue doesn't work very well, so you definitely want to have tear and tape. So a bit of tear and tape right on the plastic. And don't worry about adhering it really firmly to the plastic, because you're going to put the other pumpkin on the other side. So peel up your tear and tape. Make sure that I still have some on the other side. And then stick them down. Now you don't want them to go over the slit. You want the edge of your jack-o'-lantern to be right at the slit. So I'm actually centering them right over my center one. So you want the edge to be where the slit is. You don't want to cover that slit up. And then, is it going to work? No, it's not working. Oh. Maybe I got my curve too far over. See, it works with the paper. Let me just test it out. Okay, now that wasn't working, I think because the window sheet is too thick and doesn't have any give in it. So I'm going to do it again, but this time the way I did it in class, which was with the thick Whisper White. So same width, and you just need it long enough. So I'm just going to give it a bend just past where the slit is. Now the difference with doing it this way is, in order to disguise the mechanism, I sponged it. So with my pumpkin pie still there, I just gave it a bit of a sponging around where the mechanism was. Maybe a bit more sponging there because the white is showing. Let's get a bit, there's my pumpkin pie. So just sponge that. To disguise the color of the mechanism. And the inside as well, because you will see a bit of the inside as it flips back and forth, as well as the end bit, because the pulley, you'll see some of that showing out the end, depending on what you use. You could just, put the words pull on there, or you could put some other image on the end part. So I had thought about using the pumpkin pie cardstock, but that's not as thick as the Whisper White thick, and I'm worried that it might deteriorate over time when using it. Okay, so that's done. So now let's see if this is going to behave. Try not to bend your cardstock. So you want to have a bit of the folded part showing out the back, like that. That's the part we're going to pull on, and this is where the pumpkin is going to sit. So that's too long. Snip off the part you don't need, just enough to hold the pumpkin in place. Again, we're going to glue that. This one we can glue down because it's paper on paper, so bit of glue just on that part. Put your pumpkin in place, making sure that he's not going over that cut line. Okay, so then there we go. That's flipping. Yeah, so the problem with doing it with the window sheet, and I should have thought it through, but nothing like trying it in real life, is it's not flexible enough. So when you do that fold, it's not flexible enough to flop back and forth. I thought it might be, but apparently not. So there. So we can go back and forth. Okay. Unlike the one I did, because my original one, I had the fold right there. I can pull it open very slowly, but when I try to close it, there's nothing for it to close against. So this one solves that problem. But as they say, live and learn. Now that you've got your pumpkin there, pull them open and then put your glue on your other side that says boo. And stick those two pieces together. That's why you should always try things out before you finish them up. So that one is just the other side of my little pumpkin. And so as long as you got your folded part in the back, you should be able to open and close, open and close. Yay! That looks so good. Okay, I'm happy that worked. Okay. So when you stick it down, make sure that you've got your, and you can see why I put the sponging on there, because you will see a bit of that. So that's why I sponged on the mechanism. In fact, I probably should sponge a bit more before I stick it down, because it looks like you can see right down here. Now, before you stick it on there, you want to put tape behind it. You could do the strips to give it some height, but I just used regular tear and tape. But do not put it too close to this mechanism here. Okay, the mechanism needs to have room to move, so you don't want to put your tape too close. You want it either side. So I'm going to put the tape above and below, but not too close to it, because I don't want it to get stuck in the tape. So a bit there and a bit below it, and that, once it's stuck on the card, that will hold it in place nicely. And then I'm just going to put them on the side of the card to hold the card in place. So nothing under the mechanism. And tearing tape at the bottom. And that's also why I don't suggest you use liquid glue for this, because when you stick it down, the glue might move and get stuck in the wrong place. My tape's not cooperating. Sticking to me. And I'll just put a little strip up here. Okay. So you need to make sure the mechanism section is clear of any adhesives. Okay. And so once you're happy with that, you can stick it on your card. Make sure it doesn't get bent over there while you're taking your backends off. Tape is sticking to me. It's one of those days where things aren't quite going to plan. So if it's too long, you can just cut off what is too long at the bottom, but you want the sides to sit nice, edge to edge, making sure your mechanism is not stuck in that tape. And then when you press down, the tape will keep it in place. And there we go. Boo. There we go. Much better than my first one. Now it's a bit wobbly because I didn't put the tape too close, but that's okay. I'd rather have it further away than too close. And once you have that done, you can then put your other elements on it. Now the grass, you don't want the grass to be on top of your pumpkin, but I'm going to put my owl on the inside there. So I will color that and I will show you the last few bits. Okay, so I'm back. I've colored my images with my Stampin' Blends, and I love the Stampin' Blends because they blend the colors so nicely. I glued that extra piece that I ripped off the top onto the bottom of my grass, so it gives it a bit more dimension than before. And last we did was tape that part down. So now, I've also sponged, as you can see on my table, I sponged all my stems and my leaves in garden green. So now we need to stick down our little owl that will be hiding on the inside. So we'll pop that open and we're going to hide him roughly about there. So we'll pop him down with a bit of glue. roughly about, and then inside there, let's just, before we stick it down, let's just check that he's hidden nicely, and he is, so I'll just give it a press. And so there's our little owl hiding. So I could have sponged around the white part if I wanted to make it less noticeable. Okay, and then we're going to put the grass there. So the grass, I'm going to glue that down. It has to be under the big jack-o'-lantern, otherwise won't be able to do the jack-o'-lantern, so that's why I did it after. So if your grass is a bit long, just glue it down and then trim off what hangs over the edge. So and if you use glue, you got a little wiggle room to wiggle it back into place. Wiggle it out of place if the case may be. Okay. That looks like he's right down to the bottom. And you can trim off any excess if you have any. Okay. There we go. There's our little bit hiding there. Okay. We'll glue the part on the inside. And then we'll put some little extra accents everywhere. My glue is misbehaving today. I don't know why. See if I got a different Tombow, that'll work. Not having any luck with my Tombow. Well, that one's kind of behaving a bit. It was. Okay. 3 things of Tombow, and they're all misbehaving, so hopefully this will work. So just put that into place there. The inside. And then our outside. So now I ended up stamping on both sides of that leaf, so which is quite easy to do because it's a simple shape. And then I'm going to just pop one of them, just right little dot there, pop one of them up the front. And the reason I stamped on both sides is because you will see it on the other side. And then I will just, or you could just cover up the leaf with the opposite one if you didn't want to stamp on both sides. And so just pop that there to give our pumpkin a bit of greenery. And so these guys here, if I haven't pushed it down too far, I'm going to pop a few of those in place. So first it's not giving me any glue, and now it's giving me too much glue. So when you have excess glue, pick up some on another piece. So I like the skinny part at the top. I'm just going to pull that up slightly and slide that down as far as I can. That's a bit too tall. Don't like it. Adjust it. So snip a bit off and try again. I like that one better. Not so tall. Because I taped these down, I should be able to slip them underneath. Again, I don't like the height of that one. Just, there we go. And then a few more to decorate the others. just going to cut some of these ones shorter. You could put one right in the middle of your pumpkin if you wanted. But I'm just going to decorate a couple of them. And then maybe two more. And almost done. A stem there and a stem here. And then just to add, so I obviously cut too many stems, just to add a bit more dimension, the stamp set has a little swirly bit right there. So I'm just going to stamp that with a bit of garden green. And just put some swirls coming out here, there, and wherever. And just a few swirls, just so it looks like we've got a bit of a line going on here. Let's see if I can get one coming down here. And maybe one over there. There we go. And the finishing touch is to put something on the pulling mechanism. So you could put something that says pull here or whatever, but I happen to have these stickers left over, and I'm just going to, before I stick them down, I'm just going to trim the pull edge slightly just to give it a bit better shape to go with my skull and crossbones. Okay. And so if you are going to put a sticker there, try to choose one that has matching images. So there, and that's sticking out there, and then I'll flip it over and put the opposite one on the opposite side to hold it in place. So that sticker there, and that sticker there. Just make sure that it's not going to affect the mechanism. So now you can pull out and you can push in, pull out and push in. And there I'm just holding on to the skull. All right, so there you have it. I believe that's me done. So lots of techniques in that card there. I hope you enjoyed it. So that one I have the raven and pulls open, but it doesn't slide back very well because he's getting a bit bent there. So this mechanism works much better. So as you can see, opens nicely and closes nicely. So that's a better mechanism to use than my original one. So a few changes. I doubled up the grass on there and have a different mechanism, as well as I glued more in here so it holds it more steady. And because the hinge is hidden under the cards, it doesn't wobble like this one. Because the hinge is right there on the edge, it makes the pumpkin fall down. And so when he's standing, when the card's standing up, he kind of sits open When this one stands up, he stays closed. So a couple things I've learned in making this, and hopefully you've learned from me as well. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, please give me a thumbs up and go ahead and subscribe. If you want to see more videos, I'll be making lots more in the near future. You can go look at my blog, papercraftaddiction.blogspot.co.nz, for different ideas for cards, etc. I'll be popping some pictures of some Halloween treats that I've made that I'm not doing videos of because it's too close to Halloween. But these will be there as well. I will put a list of the products I used below this video. If you live in New Zealand and don't already have a demonstrator, a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, you can go to my site at michellekritchley.stampinup.net to order any of the products that you see listed here that you'd like to get. But this set, even though Halloween is nearly upon us, it's great for anything. You know, it's got things for teachers. You could do it for apples and pears, tomatoes, anything you want. So it's a really good one. Thanksgiving, etc. So really good set to have, especially if you get the matching apple builder punch to go with it. And then I've also included the adorable, very adorable owls that you can use for Halloween and Christmas. So this set here has them for any time of year. So that's it for me, and have a happy Halloween and stay safe. Bye-bye.